You won't believe how an ordinary student from New York put a wealthy, spoiled kid in his place. But that's not all. At the end of the story, there's a surprise that will make you think about how we all relate to money and the people around us. Watch until the end and let us know in the comments which city you're watching this video from. Who knows? Maybe your city will be next in our story. In one of the universities in New York, there was a girl named Emily. She was an ordinary student but had an extraordinary character. Emily had learned from a young age to rely only on herself. She worked part-time at a cafe, wrote articles for a local blog, and still managed to excel in her studies. Her parents offered help, but she always refused. "I can manage myself," she would say. Emily valued her independence and had no intention of changing her principles for anyone else's expectations. In her class was a guy named Jacob. He was the quintessential rich kid, the son of a successful businessman who was used to getting everything he wanted with just a snap of his fingers. Jacob was confident that his wealth and status made him irresistible, and when he started pursuing Emily, he was sure that she wouldn't be able to resist his charms. He showered her with expensive gifts, invited her to the trendiest restaurants in the city, and even offered her a ride in his new sports car. But Emily was not someone who could be bought. She casually treated Jacob like a friend, giving him no reason to think that she was impressed by his money. This drove him crazy. Jacob was used to girls falling at his feet, and here he faced complete indifference. Then came Jacob's birthday. He decided to throw a party in his luxurious penthouse with a view of Manhattan. All his friends prepared for the event, discussing what expensive gifts they would bring. Jacob decided to use this moment to teach Emily a lesson for her stubbornness. He sent her a message. "Emily, you know I'm used to the best. So for a gift, I want you to give me an amount equal to my age. I think that's fair." Emily read the message and smiled. She knew that Jacob expected $22,000 since he was turning 22. But she decided to teach him a lesson he would remember for a long time. At the party, Jacob eagerly awaited Emily as she approached him to present the envelope with the money. When she finally came up to him, everyone held their breath in anticipation. Jacob smiled as he opened the envelope and pulled out $22. A look of complete bewilderment appeared on Jacob's face. Emily calmly said, "You asked for an amount equal to your age. I didn't give you $22,000 because you're not 22,000 years old, right?" Silence fell in the room. Jacob's friends looked at him, then at Emily, unsure how to react. The birthday boy turned red with anger and embarrassment. He realized that his attempt to humiliate Emily had backfired on him. Emily smiled, turned, and left the party, leaving everyone in shock. Her action became legendary at the university. Jacob's friends later recounted that it was the most humiliating moment of his life, yet they couldn't help but admire Emily's bravery and wit. Since then, Jacob started to behave more modestly, while Emily proved that a person's true worth lies not in their wallet but in their character. After Emily put Jacob in his place, her story spread throughout the university. Students shared it on social media, added their comments, and even created memes featuring her famous phrase, "You're not 22,000 years old, right?" Emily became an unofficial campus hero. She was respected for her principles, sense of humor, and ability to stand up for herself. However, even though Jacob was humiliated, he couldn't stop thinking about her. He was used to everything in his life revolving around him, but Emily showed him that there are things in life that cannot be bought with money. He began to notice how she interacted with other students, how she helped her classmates with their studies, and how she always remained true to herself no matter what. One day, Jacob decided to approach Emily after a lecture. He was nervous but gathered his courage. "Emily, I want to apologize," he began. "You were right. I acted selfishly, and your actions made me reflect. I want to change." Emily looked at him with a slight smile. She didn't expect this turn of events but decided to give him a chance. "Okay, Jacob, but words are one thing and actions are another. Prove that you're serious." From that moment on, Jacob began to change. He stopped bragging about his money and started engaging more with people without expecting anything in return. He even offered to help Emily with her project for a university startup competition. Emily, who dreamed of creating an app to help students find part-time jobs, agreed. Together, they became a great team. Jacob used his connections and resources to aid with funding, while Emily took on the development of the concept and communication with potential partners. Their project quickly gained popularity, and soon they won a university grant to implement their idea. But the most interesting developments were still to come. Jacob, who had previously only thought about himself, began to notice how his life was improving for the better. He found true friends who valued him not for his money but for his personality. Naturally, he also began to feel more respect for Emily. One evening after a successful presentation of their project, Jacob invited Emily for a walk along the waterfront. "Emily, I want to thank you," he said. "You not only helped me become a better person, but also showed me that there are things in life that are more important than money. I admire you." Emily smiled. She knew Jacob had changed and was glad she could help him see the world in a different light. "Thank you, Jacob." But remember, this is just the beginning. True change takes time. Since then, their friendship only grew stronger. Their project helped hundreds of students find jobs and gain confidence in themselves. The story of Emily and Jacob became an example of how even the most diverse individuals can find common ground and change their lives for the better. After the success of their joint project, Emily and Jacob became inseparable friends. Their story inspired many students, and they even began receiving offers from large companies interested in their app. But one evening, while Emily was sorting through old things in her apartment, she found a letter that turned her world upside down. The letter was from her grandmother, whom she could barely remember. It stated that her family once owned a small but successful business, which had been unfairly taken away many years ago. Her grandmother wrote that the culprit was none other than Jacob's father, the very successful businessman who built his empire on the losses of others. Emily was in shock. She didn't know how to react. On one hand, Jacob had become a close friend, but on the other hand, his family had destroyed her family's life. She decided not to tell him right away, but a storm of emotions raged within her. Meanwhile, Jacob noticed that Emily had become more withdrawn. He asked her if everything was okay, but she responded evasively. So he decided to plan a surprise. He organized a meeting with investors who could help take their project to the next level. At the meeting, Emily saw Jacob's father for the first time. He was just as she had imagined, confident, authoritative, and a little arrogant. When he began talking about his successes, Emily couldn't hold back. "Your successes are built on the losses of others," she said, looking him straight in the eye. "You destroyed my family's life many years ago, and now I want you to answer for it." Silence fell in the room. Jacob stared at Emily, not understanding what was happening. His father, initially taken aback, tried to deny everything, but Emily pulled out her grandmother's letter and showed it to everyone. Jacob was stunned. He had never thought about how his father had earned his fortune. At that moment, he realized he had to choose between family and justice. "Emily, I didn't know," he said, "but I don't want to be a part of this. I'll help you seek justice, no matter what it takes." Together, they began an investigation to find evidence of Jacob's father's dishonest dealings. It was not easy, but with their persistence and the support of friends, they were able to gather enough information to hold him accountable. In the end, Jacob's father was forced to admit his mistakes and return part of the property to Emily's family. This was a huge step towards restoring justice. But most importantly, Jacob and Emily became even closer. They proved that even the most complicated situations can be overcome if you remain true to your principles and support each other.